In the Black Gemara, we are up to a few lines from the bottom of the page. Ifra Hurmiz, just 5 lines from the bottom of the page by the 2 dots. The Ifra Hurmiz, we already had him in the Gemara a couple of days ago. They weren't Jewish. Ime de Shabar Malka, she was the mother of Shabar Malka. She's a wealthy woman in her own right. Shadra Arba Meya Dinre Likame Drabami. She sent 400 golden coins before Rabami. The same sum that she sent on Davches. But over there, she specified what she wanted to happen with that money. She wanted to be used for a mitzvah rabbah, for a grand mitzvah, which we worked out as talking about Pidyon Shvuin. Here, she just gave the money. The Lake Kablinu, Rabbi Amir refused to take it. Shadrinu Kamei de Rabba. She sent the money before Rabba. The Kablinu, he did accept it. Why did he accept it? B'shem Shalom Malchus, to make sure there's peace. Shama Rabbi Ami heard, Ikbid, and he was upset. You have no principles? Amalei, he said to Rabba, what about the pasuk where it says, Bivoish Tzida, when the wood dries up to Shavarna, you can break it. Noshim Bois Mirs, a woman will come and light it up. In other words, if they have no merits, then the goyim have no control over us. And by you giving them merits and allowing them to give tzedakah, then they have control over us. So why would you allow them to give tzedakah? The Rava, however, the reason why he did it is because of Shalom Malchus. You have to have peace. But Rabbi Ami Shalom Malchus, what about Rabbi Ami? Doesn't he believe in the idea of Shalom Malchus? So he says, yes, but Rabbi Ami felt if you accept money from a guy, you should distribute it to the goyim. As we learned in other places, that we do give, because the dark is shalom, we distribute money, have soup kitchens for the goyim as well. But Rabbi also gave it for goyim. But Rabbi Amid Ikbit, so why is Rabbi Amid upset? The loy saimu kamei. No one told him where the money ended up, and that's why he was upset. Now, in the previous Gemara, where she specified she wanted the money to go to a mitzvah rabbah, Rava had no right to give it to the poor. You're not permitted to deceive a guy. We're learning Marachullah. If a guy comes in and he wants to buy kosher meat in a kosher butcher shop, you're not allowed to give him something which is not kosher. But that is deception. Because of Chel Hashem, is deception. But there where she said, she clearly stipulated, it has to be mitzvah rabbah, he had no choice but to use it for Pidyon Shvuim of Eden. Over here, she didn't stipulate, so therefore he can use it to give it to goyim. So some Rishonim hold that the only time you can accept money from goyim is, even if you plan to distribute it to goyish people, is if it's Shalom Malchus. Only if it's the royal family, you can't say no. But from individuals, you could. Others say it applies to everyone. But we also learned in Taisus and all the Rishonim before that said that if a goy donates to a Beis HaKnesses or a Beis HaMedrash, you're permitted to take it from them because it's treated like a carbon, not like tzedakah. There's nobody poor. It's more like a carbon, and a goy is included in the midst of kabbanas. It says ish, double ish, one for a eid and one for a goy. But it's not clear. Is it because he donated a candlestick? He donated a commodity. So therefore, that's why it's considered like a carbon. But what about money? Money to a shul. Is that still considered like a carbon? Or we say money to a shul might be different? Anyway, we're up to Daf Yud Aleph Amud Aleph. Coming to
what page?
Yud Aleph Amud Aleph. The very top of the page, right at the beginning. 4th word. Tanya, we learned in the Brisa. Amrullah, they said about Binyamin HaTzadik. Shahaya Memuna al Kupashal Tzedakah. Binyamin HaTzadik was in charge of a tzedakah pushka. Pamach is once, Boas Isha Lefanav, a woman came before him. Bishnei B'Tzoyis was the hunger years of famine. Amrullah, she said to him, Rebbe, Parnasani, feed me. Amar Allah, he said to her, Avodah, I swear to you, She'ein B'Kupashal Tzedakah Kum. The coffers are empty. Amrullah Rebbe, she said, Rebbe, the fact is, if you don't feed me, you'll find that a woman and her 7 children, which is myself, will pass away. He wasn't a wealthy man, but he gave her from his own personal funds. The Yamim, a short while later, Binyamin HaTzadik became ill, the Natal Lamus, and he was touch and go. He almost died. Malach said to Hashem, Marta, you said Kolamakayim nefesh achas b'Yisrael is kilakayim oila molek. If you save one Jewish person, as if you saved the entire world, we learn from Kayin. Ubinyamin Hatzadik, we learn in Sanhedrin. Ubinyamin Hatzadik shehech isha v'shibana. He saved 8 lives. Yamus b'shani muwata should die prematurely. Halalu now. Miyad karula, immediately they ripped asunder Gzar Dina, the decree against him. Tanu the Brisa Haisifla, they added Esim Vishnayim Shtayim Shana Aushna, so they added 22 years. Now that's a fact of life. He added 22 years, but why 22? So there's a beautiful shot from the Vilna Gaon. The Vilna Gaon says, why Dafka 22? He says because the Gemara, the Mishnah Saita says that if you have a mitzvah, you have a schus, by the woman, if she drinks the water, even if she committed, adultery, her schus will delay the punishment. The schus of a mitzvah is toilet gimel chadashim. It adds 3 months. A mitzvah is 3 months. So it says the Vilna Gaon. We just learned the Gemara 2 days ago that hamafaisa, if you give someone tzedakah, but you're kind to them and you're compassionate, you get yud aleph brachas, 11 brachas. So for every bracha you get, which is a mitzvah, every bracha you get 3 months extension of your life. So 11 times 3 equals 333.
11 times 3 is 33, my friend.
Sorry, I misunderstood. 11 is 33. But there were 8 souls there. Because there were 8 souls there, so 8 times 8 times 33 equals 264. So he had an extension of 264 months. He divided that by 12, that gives him 22. That's why he got a 20 extension of 22 years, because he was Mekayim, the Yud Aleph brachas, to 8 different souls, and each bracha gets 3 months extension.
Yemi gave a different pshat that is connected to Yaakov Avinu. You worked 22 years for Lovon.
What about it?
No, he connected it somehow there.
Okay, what I just told you, by the way, is not my own word. It's from the Vilna Gaon.
Yeah.
Other people say another word to the name of Vilna Gaon, but this is much better, so we'll stick with this one. Okay, let's go on. Tell me what we learned. So you learned this Gemara already?
We learned up to Toler Rabbanon.
Oh, okay.
That's fine.
Okay, doesn't hurt.
And now pshat.
Good. It's worth it just to hear that.
Yeah.
Toler Rabbanon. We're up to about 30 lines at the top. Ma'aseh ben Munbaz HaMelech. There's a story with Munbaz HaMelech. There's a big debate who exactly Munbaz HaMelech was. Rashi holds Munbaz HaMelech was from the family of Chashmonaim, and therefore they were all Jewish. Others learned that they were Gerim. If you read the story here, it's a bit difficult. Okay, it says here, the story of Munbaz HaMelech should bizbiz oitzreisav, that he opened up his treasures, he opened up all of his treasuries. B'shnei, there's a hunger, a famine, so he opened it up and he fed the poor. His entire family, his siblings and his family said, what are you doing? You're giving up all the treasures. Every generation they added, accumulated wealth. You just open your doors to feed everybody. So that's why some people find it hard. Some of the Rishonim find it hard to say that there was Chashmonaim, they were Yidden. Then why would the brothers gang up on him? They knew exactly what he was doing. It was a famine. People were dying from hunger. That's the role of a king, to save his people. Therefore, they'd rather learn that he was a ger, and therefore his siblings who were not Jewish complained. Amalem explained to them, let me explain to you why I'm giving tzedakah. My ancestors, they accumulated wealth only down here. But what I'm doing now, I'm saving wealth for myself upstairs. Shneimar says, Emes me'edes titzmach, but tzedakah is mishamayinishka. Comes, looks, it appears on it from heaven. They hit a place where people you throw and I reached a place but nobody can affect it. Remember it says tzedek u'mishpat b'chayim kisacha. Now what that tzedek and mishpat is the seat of Hashem. Nobody can reach over there. Interesting that every time we talk about tzedek, we had yesterday as well, it said tzedakah mishpat. Bring the gula la'olam, it says mishpat is tzedakah. So we have to wonder what this mishpat is. And we said yesterday that could be the mishpat is to discern, to make sure that tzedakah ends up in a place where there's tzedakah, like Yirmi or Davin, that the tzedakah should end up in people that don't deserve it, so you don't get the credit for it. So mishpat is that you should be a bit discerning and make sure the tzedakah goes to the right places. Others have other pshatim. money doesn't bear any fruits. And I did. And then it says, that you tell them that if you give tzedakah and so on and so forth, the tzedakah prima aleim, they're eating the fruits of their labor. So the keren is kayemes le'olam haba, and I'm not eating the principal. I'm just eating the dividends. I always wondered why in davening when we say in the Mishnah there from Peah, Elu dvarim she'elu shir, and then we say that these are following our kayemes le'olam haba, but you get the paytas in this world and the keren le'olam haba, and we list all those things, plus the orchim, plus the kala, and all that, and we don't mention tzedakah. When tzedakah, we say right here that the keren is kayemes le'olam haba, and all you're getting is the prima lane, you're getting the fruits, the dividends here. Why isn't that included in that Mishnah? I don't know. What do you call it? They just save money. I saved all these people that we save. It says, Chacham takes the fashions. They stored, they had no benefit from it. It's for the next generation. Next generation. I stored what I'm doing now. I'm investing, I'm going to benefit. Now it says, you will get the benefit of the tzedakah. I'm there for the future world. It says, that before you will go your tzedakah, honor Hashem will gather it all together. So therefore, you should give tzedakah. So this concludes the sugya of tzedakah, which all started from the Mishnah that as a community you could force each other to donate, and then we went from that to tzedakah as well, and then we learned all these different things of tzedakah. Back to the Mishnah, we asked how long does one have to reside in a city before they take on responsibilities of that city, and they have to contribute to the coffers. So we said that you have to be there 12 months, but if you purchased a house immediately. Says the Gemara, and that's of Shimon ben Gamliel. The Gemara Masnisin the lake Rav Shimon Gamliel. Our Mishnah doesn't conform to Shimon Gamliel. The Tanya we learned in the Brayse, Rav Shimon Gamliel, in Kadaba Karka kosher. You have to buy a house, even just a piece of land, a sliver of land. You're considered a citizen of that city. Not like our Mishnah that says you have to purchase a house. The Gemara Batanya Rav Shimon Gamliel in Kanish of Karka Harui LeBeis Dida. It says in other Brayse that if you bought property that is suitable for a base dira, in other words, not just a sliver, it has to be property beautiful. And maybe our Mishnah, when it says a base dira, it means property that is suitable to build a base dira on it. So which one is it? And so the Gemara Trei Tanoi Elibo der Shimon Gamliel. There are two opinions as to what der Shimon Gamliel actually said. Okay, the Mishnah continues. This is the Mishnah. We learned this Mishnah in Gilam and Aleph in the Gemara. That we, according to the opinion that they had to agree to divide, and why did according to the Hezek, what did they agree about? They had to agree to divide because the land was not subdivisional; it's very small, and there wasn't sufficient the land for each one to really enjoy, unless they both agree. So the Mishnah says, generally speaking, if they both agree, you can divide anything. But if they don't agree, you can't force me to remain your partner. So, but on the other hand, if we divide our partnership, there has to be something sizable for each one. If it's not sizable for each one, then the only way is for us to continue and perpetuate our partnership, because that's the only way that we can earn something. So the Mishnah goes through and lists what's considered suitable and what's considered unsuitable. So, ein cholkin as a chotzer, you do not divide a yard actually arba amos lezeh, but arba amos lezeh. The minimum, a yard is in front of the house and the rechav of the street is behind the house. In those days, because the houses were so small, the yard was actually like an extension of the house. They did many activities that they would normally do in the house, they would do outdoors. So you need a minimum of 4 amos, and the Rishonim say means 4 by 4, not just 4 amos length and 1 amma wide. It has to be an area of 4 by 4 that we say that's considered a chatzah. Big argument to the Rishonim then, okay, 4 by 4, does it have to be a minimum of 4 by 4 in each direction, or 16 amos? I don't care if it's 2 by 8 or 1 by 16. And most Rishonim say it has to be a minimum of 4 wide and 4 deep, because anything less than 4 wide, you can't really do much. And anything not 4 amos, deep, you can't do much. It has to be minimum 4 by 4. Okay, so that's the minimum. When it comes to dividing a field, each one should have able to have 9 kavin, which is a saw, is 3 kavin. A saw, we learned in the Mishkan, was 2 saw. So a saw is 50 amas by 50 amas. That's a saw. And this is a saw and a half. So it's 75 amas by 50 amas. That's the minimum size of a field that each one has to have a lot of 50 amas by 75, which is 3,450. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, you don't even need that much. Half of that. Half of that. 4.5 kavim. Not even a full saw. 4.5 kavim is enough. And that's enough of a field to warrant that each one they can keep the field and work with it, even though it's pretty small. But lazy, when it comes to a garden, which you obviously is much smaller than a field, and you just have different little vegetables that you plant or herbs, whatever you plant there. But there the minimum should be This one is a 1/12 of a saw. Very small little piece of land is enough to be considered a garden. Rabbi Kiva says even less than that. Base Rov, a quarter of a kav is sufficient. That if each one ends up with a quarter of a kav, I can say, let's divide the land. These are different kinds of mansions. They're different size mansions. And so not a traklin nor a maiden can we divide. Nor can you divide a chicken coop. A talus, nor can you divide a talus. A merchet or a bathhouse. Base abad an olive press. Base a shalchin, a field that needs irrigation. You cannot divide it because if you don't have what do you call it? But all of these, there's no the rule here in these things are you have to judge each case on its merits. After you divide it, there's enough for each one to make it worth their while, then you can divide it. And if it's not worth their while, then you don't divide it. You cannot force. I mean, if you agree, there's nothing to talk about. But you cannot coerce your partner to divide with you. This is the rule. Anything you divide, Ushmai Allah, but still retains its original name. You still call it a garden, a field, whatever it is. Chokin, you can divide. It's not ain't chokin, you don't divide. A Messiah, when it all this talking about is mancha ain't name rights, they don't agree. I was mancha's name rights. If we agree to divide, we divide. I feel possible. We can divide anything. If we agree to separate our ways, and that's it, we can divide. Why does Mishnah even have to say that? It's for the last line. The Kisvei HaKodesh, when it comes to the Holy Scriptures, when it comes to the Kisvei HaKodesh, the 24 Svarim, and there they wrote it like a Sefer Torah. Therefore, cutting it up, that you end up with a Chumash, and we'll see. In fact, the last 4 pages of this paper, because again, I got it, and it starts out talking about this Kisvei HaKodesh. There, even though we both might agree to divide it's a bezoyin for a sefer to cut through a sefer in the middle, and therefore it is not appropriate, and there your agreement doesn't help. So getting back to the Mishnah says that a chatzar, when do we divide a chatzar? Each one ends up with 4 amas by 4 amas. Says the Gemara, it's not so simple. Amar Rabasi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Asi said to Rabbi Yochanan, when we say 4 amas, it's chutz mishal psachim. Every door needs some space. They would bring the donkey with all of its wares, and they would park the donkey, and they would dismantle, take everything off the donkey. You need space where the donkey can stand and where you can place all those wares. And you wouldn't bring the donkey into your house; you would leave it in the courtyard. So every house is entitled, or every door is entitled to a certain amount of space to be able to remove things from the donkey. Says the Gemara. So the 4 amas that we say in the courtyard is an addition to the space that we give you for your doorways. In fact, Tanya Namehachi and Cholkin as a chatzah. We don't divide a chatzah. There has to be a minimum of 8 amas each. Why 8 amas? 4 for the door, 4 for the other door. So each one has, and then 4 each one in the middle. So a total of 8 amas. When we say 8, we mean 8 by 4. So 4 by 4, we said before, I mean a minimum 4 by 4 by the door and 4 by 4. That means even if your door is only 2 amas wide, you're entitled to 4 amas of space in the width as well as the depth. And the other person's house as well. And then each one gets 4 by 4 in the courtyard. You need a total of 16 amas.
So you're doubling the length and the breadth.
The width is the same. You don't double the width. The width stays 4. It's the depth. Says the Gemara, the Mishnah we learned each one gets 4. It seems that you have 4 to each, and you tell me there's 8 to each. Shmamina proves Rabasi's point that that's over and above what you receive for your allotment for each door. Yika and others actually turn it into a question. That's a question. Now we let the Mishnah we need four each. But Tanya elsewhere, Shmoina Amos is Shmoina they need 8 for each. Abrabasi, Abrabichan, Arba Amos, Shamru is Chutz Sachi. Okay. If the door is wider than 4 Amos, then you get the entire expanse of the door. So if your door, for example, is 6 Amos wide, you will then get a room space in front of your door 6 Amos wide, 4 Amos deep. But if your door is less than 4 Amos, you will still get 4 Amos because you need a minimum of 4 Amos to be able to park your donkey and put down, take all the things. Now we have an argument in Rav Huna and Rav Chizah. We had the same argument in Rav Sukkah. Rav Huna says, so the way Rashi here learns, Rashi and Sukkah actually learn differently, but Rashi here learns a person dies and he has 2 houses. One house has 2 doors and one house has 1 door. They both belong to him, and he had a courtyard in between. It's all his. And he died. He distributed. He gave one son 1 house. One son had 2 doors, and the other son ended up with a house with 1 door. Says Rav Huna, the house that has 2 doors receives 2/3 of the chatzah, and the house that has 1 door only gets 1/3 of the chatzah. And Rav Chizda says, "Noisnin arba ames l'chol pesach a pesach." No, each door is entitled to 4 by 4 ames, but that's it. It has no bearing on the courtyard itself. The rest are divided. It would seem it's difficult to understand exactly what Rav Huna is saying here. But it would seem the argument is based on a machlekes rishonim, and then we use that machlekes rishonim to explain perhaps that is the crux of the argument of Rav Huna Chizda. And the machlekes rishonim as follows: when Rav Chizda says that you're entitled to 4 amas by the door, 4 wide, 4 deep, does it actually belong to you, or you only have the use of it? You have the first right of use. In other words, if Reuven and Shimon, Reuven has the door, the house on the right, Shimon has the door, the house on the left. Reuven has 4 amas in front of his door. If Reuven is not using those 4 amas, does Shimon have a right to then use it for himself because Reuven is not using it? Or no, it belongs as part of Reuven's house. What right does Shimon have just to walk in is trespassing? They're partners in the chutzah, but not Shimon has no right to walk into Reuven's house, nor does he have a right to walk in 4 amas. So is the 4 amas a kinyan, or is the 4 amas merely hishtamshus? Big argument Rishonim. If we take that and go a step further and say that is precisely the argument of Rav Huna and Rav Chizda. Rav Huna holds that the 4 amas is a kinyan. And since the father gave this son the house with 2 doors, it's as if the father is saying that you have a kinyan in the chatzah double what your brother has, because I'm giving you double 4 amas and your brother only getting 1 4 amas. So you have a double kinyan in the chatzah. And then we expand that to the rest of chatzah, you end up with 2/3, another guy ends up with 1/3. Rav Chizda, on the other hand, says the 4 amas has nothing to do with the kinyan. It's only a right of use, that you have the first right of use because it's adjunct to your house. It's abutting your house. Another one has to wait for you not to use it before he can use it. So therefore, since you have no more greater share in the chatzah than the other person, so when you divide the chatzah, you divide it equally. Why should one person get any greater amount than the other person? That's perhaps what the argument is between Rav Chizda and Rav Huna. But most Rishonim hold that this case is only limited to a case where a person dies, and the situation we said. But if 2 people bought a property together, even though one house might end up with 2 doors and one house might end up with 1 door, when they divide the property, it's 50-50. There's nothing to talk about. It's always 50-50. No argument anywhere. And
why don't we answer that the Nifter was Amoritz? He didn't understand these laws. I mean, how technical are these laws for everybody to know?
There's no laws. If the Nifter gave the house with 2 doors to one son and the house 1 door, 1 son, and he didn't make them pay more money or less money. In other words, if you say if 2 people buy a property together and one guy ends up with more doors, he might have to pay a bit extra because you're getting more doors, easier to get in, access to the house. So then you have to look at all those things. But this is not a question of halacha. We're just Rav Huna says that this is a father can give whatever he wants to his children. This is what he decided that he wants to give his son, bigger chelik in the chatzah than his son. We're interpreting the actions here. It's not halachic question. It's more we're trying to understand, going into his mind, what he was doing here. That's what they were saying. I was just about to say there's another argument showing him and turns to my mind what it is. Forgot.
Sorry.
It's all right. All right. I'm forgetting things. It's all right. Okay. If it comes back, I'll tell you. Let's go back to the Gemara. Tanya Kavas and Chizah. We actually learned. Now, Rashi and Sukkah, by the way, that's another thing, learns differently. It's not a house. Rashi says something interesting in Sukkah. It seems a house that has more doors is not entitled to anything more than a house that has less doors. Same thing. Their argument is what Rashi says in Sukkah of Dalaveh, that is talking about one kid received 2 small houses and the other kid received 1 large house. But every house is entitled to 4 houses. If one house has 2 doors, why should he be entitled to more space in the chutzah than one house that has 1 door? But it's talking about he has 2 houses, and each house has doors. Each house you need access. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. Another machlekes is what happens. One house has 2 doors, and one house has 1 door. And if you'd give if you'd give each door 4 amos, you no longer have the 8 amos in the chutzah to divide in half. But if you gave each house merely 4 amos, you still have another 4 amos for each person to divide the chutzah. So how far do we take this entitlement of having these 4 amos per door? So if that's a machlekes of showing you what we say, well, and it seems it revolves around the same question. If the 4 amos is really a kinyan, then this guy has 2 kinyanim for 2 doors, and you need to have extra 4 amos in the chutzah to be able to give him. And if you don't have it, you cannot force each other to divide it. But if you learn that it's merely tashmish, it's only a right of use, nothing to do with ownership, then if you have 4 amos for your door, at least one of the doors, and 4 amos for the chutzah, you can go ahead and divide. Anyway, as you can see, there's quite nuances in the Gemara. Let's continue. That's the Gemara. Tani Gemara says, "We look at the Chizah. Shachri b'chutzah the door. The chutzah yeshlen 4 amos. The doors in the chutzah have 4 amos. Hoyel zeh pesach echad zeh shnei psachim. This guy one door got 2 doors. Zeh sheyet pesach echad 4 amos. One door takes 4 amos. Another guy takes 8 amos. The rest is divided equally. Clearly supporting Rab Chizda's view. If this guy's door was 8 amos wide, he gets the entire width of the door. And the depth he only gets 4 amos. It doesn't mention if it's less than 4 amos, because there will say you always get 4 amos. What do you mean he gets 4 amos into the chutzah? What do you mean by that? Says the Gemara. That he gets 8 amos in the length of the chutzah and 4 amos in the width of the chutzah, further down. But he gets the entire width of his door. Amar Meimar. I paid the sufli. Meimar says, in other words, the door you get the first 4 amos, you get the width. But when you get into the chutzah, you only get 4 by 4 there. Arba, yeah. I paid the sufla. Paid the sufla, according to Rashi, Shayim, is that you have over there, for example, a hole, a pit in the middle of the courtyard, and that you throw over there the pips of the dates and to feed the animals. But you don't have any specific door in your house that you use that abuts this pit. Then therefore, the way Rashi learns and most of Shayim learn, you have 4 amos on all sides of the pit. In other words, you have a pit and you don't have any specific door that you use to go to the pit, and nothing really abuts it. You have now 4 amos surrounding the entire pit, because one day you'll go on this side, one day you'll go on that side. You have either use or a kinyan of that. But you don't have a specific door in your house for that. If you have a specific door in your house, for example, the end of your house is contiguous to this pit, and that's the door that you use always to throw your pips there, the date pips, then you get the 4 amos for the in front of that pit facing your house. The Raiva disagrees vehemently with the pshat we just said. He said, why in the world should this guy be entitled to have 4 amos around the entire pit? It's not fair. Why should that be? So he learns it means that if you don't have a specific door, you can choose which 4 amos you want around the pit. The north, the south, the east, the west, but that's all. you're entitled to. You're not entitled to 4 amos on all 4 sides. Only one of the sides. But if you have a specific door, then that's the only door you have. You don't have a choice. Second one further, Amar Buddha said, Aksadra is a porch, and we have arguments throughout Shas between Rashi and everything. We have other places, Rashi and Tosfos what exactly Aksadra is. Aksadra, according to Rashi, has no walls. It's just like a pergola, just a gazebo. You have a roof and posts, and that's it. It's open on all 4 sides. And Tosfos learn Aksadra is based on the Gemara we'll learn in the next parak in Le'achbar, has 3 walls, and the 4th side is totally exposed, nothing there. Bottom line, Aksadra ain't like Dal Damas. If you have a porch, you're not entitled to 4 amos in front of the porch to bring your donkey and unload the donkey. That is simply why, because it's a porch that's wide open, you could bring the donkey inside. You wouldn't put any precious vessels in that place anyway. What are you worried about? The donkey's going to trample on whatever. There's nothing precious there. There's no wall there, or no walls at all. Time of mine, the whole reason is that you can unload the animal. You can bring the animal inside and unload it inside. So the Gemara, Mossi Rav Sheshes asked the question. It says in the Braisa, Echad Shari Botim, whether it's the Shari Botim, which is like the guardhouse in front of a house, or the Echad Shari Aksadroi, and so to the gates of this Aksadra. Yesh lehen dal amos. They're entitled to 4 amos. You just said the porch has no 4 amos. It's clear here that porch does. So the Gemara, there's different kinds of porches. You know, we're talking about here. Kitanya, we're talking about Aksanya de Beirav, the porch of Rav, and the porch of Rav is that has, according to Rashi, has walls on all 4 sides, but has many windows. Flooded. If somebody can mute themselves, please. If somebody is flooded with sunlight. A room with big windows, and that's what Aksat said. Therefore, because the fact is it's an enclosure, and because it's an enclosure, therefore you won't bring the donkey inside. According to Tosfos, that normal porch already has 3 full walls. The 4th side is open. So it means here that the 4th side, the 4th side has a wall, but it's 4 amos high, or 10 tvachim high. It's a wall, enough of a wall that you won't bring an animal inside. Says the Gemara, that's obvious. It's That's a normal room, a normal house. Why would you think anything else? Why do you think otherwise? Why do you have to tell me you don't have 4 amos there? That you do have 4 amos. Of course you have amos. It's a regular house. Just because it has many windows, or where the wall doesn't reach the ceiling, so what? We're talking about Aksadra Remaisa, which according to Rashi is you have 4 walls around the porch, but none of them reach the ceiling. And you would think it's not really a house. Commercial, it is entitled for Rambam. Going traces, you have 3 full walls, and the 4th wall is either 10 tvachim or less than 10 tvachim. And to teach you that that one there also isn't, you're entitled to 4 amos. The mere fact that you have even a low wall means you treat it like a house, and you don't bring your animals indoors. Follow me, listen to Braisa. Beishar Aksadra or Marpeset, that a Beishar again, where that's a little house in front of a big house. Like the foyer or Aksadra or a porch or a mirpeset, or if you have, let's say, an upstairs balcony and you have a number of apartments, they all share the same balcony, but they all come up the same stairs. They have a ladder outside and they'd all climb up the ladder outside. Yesh lehen daled amos. They have 4 amos right in front of this ladder. Even though there's 5 apartments there, they're only entitled to 1 lot of 4 amos on the bottom of the ladder. We have 5 5 apartments. Still, you're only entitled. You don't say, 5 apartments. Each one should be entitled to 4 amos. No, there's 4 amos by 4 amos on the bottom there by the foot of the ladder, and that's all. But even if you have a question, you have a chicken coop. Yes, do you need 4 amos when you stand there and you bring things inside? You bring the birds inside or not? What's the whole reason you need 4 amos? We should Peter Masai. You want to unload your package. The birds, they jump on their own, they jump over the walls. They don't need your help. Rabba asked Nachman a question. So what about buying a house where half the house is covered with a ceiling and half isn't, the roof? Is this person entitled to 4 amos in front of the house or not? Now, he said this. Amalei Samachim said to him, "Ain loy dalad amos. You're not entitled to 4 amos. Loy mebayi kirim agav. You don't have to tell me in the case if the ceiling is in the inner part of the room and the outer part of the room is uncovered. So it means it feels all the climatic conditions and the rain and everything else. So surely they keep nothing precious there. You can bring your animal inside there. The efshad the ayla gavah. You can bring animal inside and the father can unload the animal. Even if, let's say, the half of the house that has a ceiling is the first part of the house and the back part of the house doesn't, still the fact that the rain can come in and the wind blows and everything else and all the elements are felt there, obviously nothing precious there at all, even probably in the front of the house also not too much, is efshad the ayla gavah. You can bring your animal in, make way, the animal should come to the back part of the house, inner recess of the house, and unload there. Rav Huna asked Rav Ami a question. Taisa says he finds it impossible that Rav Huna should ever ask Rav Ami a question, because Rav Ami, the Gemara says, and we had Gittin, that Rav Huna was such a great Talmud Chacham that he received the Aliyah of Kohen. The reason why Kohen got first is because of Darkei Shalom. But he was such a big Talmud Chacham, even though he's a Yisrael, he got the Aliyah of Kohen. And the Gemara says that even Rab Ami and Rab Asi, who were Kohenim and Chashuvim, great students of Rabbi Yechanan, were so subordinate to Rab Huna that it wouldn't have been a problem if Huna would have got Kohen. So how would Rab Huna ask Rab Ami a question? So Taisa therefore said, this is not a Rebbe Ami. The rule is whenever you say Rebbe, that means they're from Israel. When it says Rav, that means they come from Babel. So therefore, omit the Yud from Rebbe, it's Rav Ami, and it's a different person altogether, someone above. So Rabbi Hun asked about the question: what happens if Ech b'nei Mavi? So you have a yard, a chutzner. A chutzner has a number of houses in there, and then we live in Erevin. Then you have a number of chatzeres that come off a street, which is called a Mavi, and then the Mavi reaches the Rishus Rabbim, which spills into the Rishus Rabbim, which is for the public for the entire city. So the Mavi is like semi-private. The chutzner is private. So what happens is that you have one of the chatzeres that are facing the Mavi. There's a chutzner that's facing 2 mavis. The back is 1 mavi, the front is 1 mavi, and only has a door to the front, doesn't have a door to the back. So the other mavi. What happens if they want to open the door from this chutzner into the spill into the other mavi, which means they're going to increase the foot traffic? Can the people in mavi stop them? Just like here today, they were saying, oh, you're going to build a building here, you're going to increase the traffic, more cars, and then you try to use that as a pretext to prevent people from developing. So the same thing here. So somebody in this culture wanted to open up to another mavi. The people in that street, do they have the right to say, look, we don't want you to increase the food traffic or not? They said, yes, the people in the street can say we don't want the foot traffic. So Machlekes is showing, by the way, how to learn this. I just told you one way. The other way is it's talking about that. The question is, are they? If they, according to the way we're learning now, they were going to. One way is they were going to seal up the other entrance, the other mavi, and want to open a new side. So all the people of the chutzner are going to be using this new mavi. It's a lot of foot traffic. So the people always say, we don't want you. But if, let's say, you kept the other door open, so the people in the chutzner will continue using the other street. It's only one guy who lives maybe at the very end of that chutzner and much closer to this street, or his store is down there, so he wants to use that. Then maybe they cannot stop him, because for one person, maybe you can't. And in others, the way we learn now is makes no difference how many people it is, they can always stop you, even if you leave the other door open. There's 2 ways to learn the Gemara here. And the Gemara continues. Aksanya, when it comes to Aksanya, which is they used to host the army of the king, that's how Rashi learned. Others learned talking about fertilizer. Lefi b'nei adam is chalekes, or lefi psachim is chalekes. How do you just divide the people, the soldiers, I guess, who are fighting, who are working for the king, and they come by these towns? You have to feed them and take care of them while they're traveling through. How do you divide? Others say it's talking about a caravan. How do you divide the fertilizer between them? So how do you divide according to the number of people in each family, or according to how many doors you have in your house? The fact that we're talking about doors sounds more like it's talking about fertilizer, because they would throw fertilizer out from each door. Because if it's just soldiers, why would it make a difference how many doors you have? Anyway, Amalei said it goes according to the number of people that you have in your house. They're protecting, and therefore you have more benefit, larger family, more benefit than a smaller family. So you should therefore have to pay more and contribute more. Tanya Nami we learned that the fertilizer in the chutzner gets divided according to the doors, because each door you throw your fertilizer out into this pit. And aksanya lefimnei adam. But when it comes to aksanya, when it comes to hosting the people who work for the government, it's according to the members of the family that live in that house. Amar Abuna says another thing. What happens if echad mibnei mavui, let's say one of the members of the mavui, shebikish listem kineged pischa. Okay, this is how Rashi learns. Taisa has a big problem with it. But Rashi learns that, okay, you have every chutzah that spills into the mavui. In front of that chutzah, you have 4 amas, right, for the doorways. So can you put a little fence around those 4 amas so you're blocking everyone else from using your 4 amas? But what you're also causing is that people who are walking down the street now have to go circumvent that fence. This prior to that, even they might be walking right over in front of your door through your 4 amas, no big deal. That's part of the that's part of the arrangement. But by fencing it off, you're causing people to walk a little bit extra. I mean, what are we talking about? Minimum amount. But the fact is, you're causing them a slight tircha. Do you have a right to do that or not? So anybody in the street, and we're talking now about a cul-de-sac. So the street comes to an end. The street comes to an end. And somebody in that street there, it doesn't matter where they're positioned in the street, they want to fence off the 4 amas that they have, the chutzner, spills into the mavui. They want to fence off the 4 amas in front of the chutzner. So he says Rav Huna that bnei mavui ma'akvin olav. Everybody in the mavui has the right to stop and prevent him from putting that fence. Why? Shemar behalein haderech. Because even though we you're causing us. I can walk and stroll up and down the street, even though it's a dead end. But now I'm gonna have to walk a little bit extra, and that's a problem. That's how Rashi learns this whole Gemara here. And Taisus really has a problem with that, because where in the world, says Taisus, did we learn that a chutzner is entitled to 4 amas into the mavui? We learned that a house inside a chutzner is entitled to 4 amas, so that they can bring the donkey and unload the donkey. But Rashi is taking it a step further, that the chutzner, the entrance to the chutzner, is also entitled to 4 amas. Says Taisus, where do you get that from? Who says? And Taisus therefore learns we're not talking about that at all. Anyway, Taisus learns it's talking about at the end of the cul-de-sac, the very last house. He decided, since nobody comes this way anyway, I'm going to put across the entire width. I'm going to block it off, because my house, in the semicircle at the very end, I'm going to put a fence right in front of my house, and I'm going to encroach on everybody's property. But who uses it? They have a right to stop me, because they say that the people of Shusarabim spill into the mavui, and if you're I guess reducing the size of the mavui, it becomes more congested here. Says the Gemara. Sharhuda says anybody in the street, it doesn't matter where you're positioned, even though it's the guy at the very end of the cul-de-sac and I live very front of the street. How often will I ever walk down to the cul-de-sac? It doesn't matter. We all have equal rights. So the Gemara, it's not so simple. Basically, that's a question. It says the Bryce of you have 5 courtyards open to a street. You have 5, and there you come to the end of the street. The cul-de-sacs, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is the very, very end of the street. So every single person in the street has a right to use the area in front of the first person. They walk on the 4 amas thing. They can use it when he's not using it. Everyone has a right there. And but the very first property is mishtameshes la'atzma. He uses his own 4 amas. And that's it. He has no right to use the second person's front entrance, the third, the fourth, the fifth. He has no rights, only in front of his own house. The rest of the people, mishtamshes and mashniya, they can use the property in front of the second one, not the first guy, but the third, fourth, fifth can use also the property in front of the second. And vashniya, but the second guy can use mishtamshes la'atzma. He has the right to use the area right in front of his house. When he heads out to Shusarabim, he has the right to use the property or the area of the street in front of the first guy's house. But that's it. So what do we conclude? Pnimius mishtameshes la'atzma, that the very inner house, the last house, number 5, he can use the area right in front of his house. He can use the area in front of every single house. So what does he from here? That the people in the front of the street have absolutely no rights over the people in the back of the street. So the person in the back of the street wants to put a fence. The very last person wants to put a fence. Nobody can stop him. That's what it seems. Says the Akasha Rav Huna. Rav Huna says anybody can stop him. Says the word of Tanai is actually an argument tonight. Where do we see that? Time in the Brisa. One person, the member of the Mavi, which is learned before, wanted to open up to another street. So obviously, the Rabuna didn't hear from Bryson. They can prevent you from doing that. But what happened? There was already an entrance from the chutzner into the main street, but they sealed it up. But they didn't remove the door frame. Either bikish lepoishka, they want to reopen it. If they did not remove the door frame, then the people in the street have no right to prevent this person or this chutzner from starting to use it again. Divrei Rebbe. Rav Shimon Lazar argues, and he says a strange thing. He says, you have 5 chatzeiros open to a street. Everyone has a right to use any part of that street. House number 1 can use the street in front of house number 5. No, not like Rav Huna. But why does Rav Shimon bring that up? Who argues with him? Mandekashmayu. Who's talking about Chatzed is Mandekashmayu? Who's talking about courtyards? Says the Gemara Chsuri Mechsa. Obviously, some words missing. And this is how you should learn. You have 5 chatzeiros open to a street. Kulam mishtamshim chatzeiros. They can all use the outer one. The chatzeiros mishtameshes la'atzma. Rebbe. You know, the Rebbe holds exactly like Rav Huna, that you can only use the property in front of you, and then you have the access way to go to the main street. You can use all that, but that's it. You can't go the other way. It's a cul-de-sac. You have no rights there. And Rav Shimon ben Elazar argues, they can all use the street. You just said before how you saw something. Let's say you didn't remove the frame, you just sealed the door from the chutzner into the main street, and now you want to reopen it. The big place, nobody can stop you. When do we say they cannot stop you? If you did not remove the frame. If you remove the frame, then as if the door never existed, and you want to it's not reopening it. It's as if you're building a new door afresh. Proof from a Bryce. It says in the Bryce, Bayis Sosum, if you have a house that's closed off on all sides, and you used to have a door to the chutzner, but you shut it off, yesh loy dalet amos, that when you what do you call it? Even though you haven't used the door, as long as the frame is still there, and when you divide the chutzner, you're entitled also to 4 amos in front of that pre-existing door, even though it's no longer in use. But paras tzimov, if you remove the frame from that door, you forfeit your 4 amos, because as if there's no door there at all. Ain't dal as if no door. We'll skip the parentheses. Bayis sosim. The laws of Tuma are that if there's a door, then you're not allowed to stand. There's a mace inside the house. You're not allowed to stand in front of the door because the mace will come out through that door. But if there's no mace in the house, then we say that the Tuma pierces through and goes upwards. And we, the Chachamim, said you shouldn't even stand next to the house because you might be an oil. You might hover over the house. So by your sauce, if you have a house that's sealed up, all the doors are sealed up. It's not metame all around. Only, no, you didn't remove the door frame. There was a door before. We assume that where is the mace going to come out from that very door, and therefore that's where you shouldn't stand because you will become tamei. But paratz at tzimah, you remove the door frame, so now there's no door whatsoever. And where's the mace going to come out from? You have absolutely no idea. So metame kosi all around this tamei. Why are you talking all around? Because we're scared you're going to hover over it. So we see closely there's a distinction between removing the door frame and not. We're just finishing off the sugya that a street that is open to another city. Another city would come, go and use your road to get to wherever their destination is. And you want to block it off. The people of this city want to block it off. But the people in the other city who already have access here, that right of access, you can no longer block it off. They have like an easement there. We don't have to say if the other city has no other means of getting to the city, only to this existing road that goes right through your fields. Then the ma'akve, if there's no if they have no other means of getting to the city, of course they can prevent this other city from trying to block the road. Even they have another means of getting to the ma'akve, they can still be marked. You know why? They have a thing called an easement in Australia also. 15 years go by, or whatever the law is, and you've used a certain road or a thing, nobody can take it away anymore. It becomes public property. So the Amar makes it a pathway. Sheikh Zika by Rabbi, if the public has been using it for just for walking, also the calcul, you have absolutely no right to ruin it and take it away from the public. if the rabbim chose a way to go and you allowed it, you definitely could prevent it from happening. But if they already allowed it for a time, whatever they chose, they chose. Let's go through two dots. If you have a street open to Rabbim, a big you have a street, a mavi that spills into Shusharabim. And what happens is that sometimes the people in the street enter their side street, and they don't like the public. They want to be a side street. They're putting all these bumps on the road and the else. What they want to do is lahamid and dalsas. They want to put doors so people can't come in. The people in the main street have a right to say, "Hey, you're impeding or you're impinging on our walking over here because sometimes we have to go to the side, and you're not allowing us." So we thought that this is only referring to the first 4 amas of the side street. They're not allowed to place a wall there. Why? Because that's considered like annexed to the Shusarabim. And where do you see that? In the laws of Tumah. The laws of Tumah are there's a doubt if it's tummy. In a private place, we're always machmir. We live from Saita, tummy. But if it's in a public place, you're always lenient. Like by Saita as well. She spoke in public, we're not worried. So the same thing about Tumah. And the first 4 amas of a street, we say, Suffolk, if you became tummy or not, we are going to treat it lightly, like a Shusarabim. But only 4 amas. So maybe the doors also, we're talking about the first 4 amas. But beyond that, maybe they can decide, if you can put the doors there to prevent the public from entering. 4 amas adjoining the adjacent Shusarabim. Like a Shusarabim. But the truth matters, the rules by Tumah are very different than the rules that we're talking about here. Tumah and easement. Sometimes gets very crowded on the main street, and they therefore assume that they can walk onto your side street, and you have no right to prevent that happening. The islet to them, more than they have to go enter more than just the first 4 amas, and therefore, since it's a movie that spills into the Ram have a right to go there if they need to. Okay, we'll stop over here.
So all those